Woman, caste and reform. Next, have you ever thought of how children lived about 200 years ago? Next, nowadays most girls from medical class, middle class, and families go to school and often study with boys. Next, on growing up, many of them go to college and universities and take up jobs. After that, they have to be adult before they are legally married, and according to law, they can marry anyone they like from any caste and community, and widows can remarry too. All women, like all men, can vote and stand of, for election, of course. These rights are not actually enjoyed by all. Poor people have little or no access to education, and in many families, women cannot choose their husbands. Next, 200 years ago, things were very different. Most children were married off at any early age. Both Hindu and Muslim men could marry more than one wife. In some parts of the country's widows were pursued in the choose death by burning themselves on the funeral pyre of their husband. Women who died in this manner, whether willingly or otherwise, were called sati, meaning virtuous, and the women's rights to property were also restricted. Besides, most women had virtually no access to education. In many parts of the country, people believed that if a woman was educated, she would become a widow. Next, difference between men and women were not the only ones in society. In most regions, people were divided along lines of caste. Brahmins and considerations themselves as upper caste. Others, such as traders and moneylenders, often referred to as a Vaishya, were placed after them. Then came peasants and artisans, such as weaver and potters, referred to as Sudhars. At the lowest run were those who labored to keep cities and villages clean or worked to job that upper caste considered polluting. That is, it could lead to the loss of caste status. Next, the upper caste also treated many of these groups and the bottom as untouchable. They were not allowed to enter temples, draw water from the wells used by the upper caste, or bath in ponds where upper caste bathed. They were seen as informed human beings. Next, over the 19th and 20th centuries, many of these norms and perceptions slowly changed. Let us see how these happened. Next, working towards change. Next, from the early 19th century, we find debates and discussions about social customs and practice taking on a new character. One important reason for this was the development of new forms of communication. Next, for the first time, books, newspapers, magazines, and pamphlets were printed. These were far cheaper and far more accessible than the manuscripts that you have read about in class 7th. Therefore, ordinary people could read these, and many of them could also write and express their ideas in their own language. Next, all kinds of issues, social, political, economic, and religious, could now be debated and discussed by men, and sometimes by women as well as in the new cities. Next, the discussions could reach out to a wider public and could become linked to movement for social change. These debates were often by Indian reforms and reform groups. One such reformer was Raja Rai, 1770 to 1833, he founded a reform association known as the Brahman Sabha, later known as the Brahmo Samaj in Calcutta. Next, people such as Ram Mohan Rai are described as reform because they felt that changes were necessary in society and unjust practice needed to be done away with. Next, they thought that the best way in ensure such change was by persuading people to give up old practice and adopt a new way of life. Next, Mr. Rai was keen to spread the knowledge or Western education in the country and bring about greater freedom and equality for women. He wrote about the way women were forced to bear the burden of domestic work confined to the home and the kitchen and not allowed to move out and become educated. Next, changing the lives of widows. Next, Mr. Rai was particularly moved by the problems widows faced in their life. He began a campaign against the picture of Sati. Next, Mr. Rai was well versed in a Sanskrit, Persian, and several other Indian and European languages. He tried to show through his writing that the practice of widow burning had no sanction in ancient texts. By the early 19th century, as you have read in chapter 8, many British officials had also begun to criticize Indian traditions and customs. They were therefore more than willing to listen to Mr. Rai, who was reputed to be a learned man. In 1829, Sati was banned. Next, the strategy adopted by Mr. Rai was used by later reforms as well. Whenever they wished to challenge a practice and seemed harmful, they tried to find a verse of sentence in the ancient sacred text that support their point of view. They then suggested that the practice as existed at present was against early tradition. Next, Mr. Rai was well versed in the Sanskrit and Persian, several other Indian and European languages. He tried to show through his writing that the practice of widows burning had no sanction in ancient texts. By the early 19th century, as you have read in chapter 9, many British officials had also begun to criticize Indian traditions and customs. They were therefore more than willing to listen to Mr. Rai, who was reputed to be learned man. In 1829, Sati was banned. Next,